So welcome back, guys. Today I'm going to show you five things that you need to familiarize and learn before you can play Feng Wei to his max potential, in my opinion. So the first thing and the most important thing that you have to learn is the range of your hop kick, your while standing free, and your shoulder. Why is that so? Because his biggest weakness is that his hop kick and his while standing free have shitty range. So there are a lot of lows that you actually cannot punish with them. Good example is 2-2 from Paul. If you don't low parry this, you cannot launch it. You simply cannot launch it with Feng. All his punishers will miss because he has dinosaur legs for some reason. And what you actually have to do here is you have to crouch cancel shoulder to get a punish, which is kind of hard online, but offline it's very, very easy. So you really have to familiarize yourself with the range of your shoulder, which is 2.8, approximately 2.8 around here, and 2.7 more likely, and the range of your hop kick, which is actually 1.9 to net. No, let's say 2.2. 2.2 is no. See, I think it's actually 1.9. Great for Tekken 7 standard. And the problem is for stagger lows, for instance, if he does, I don't know if Paul has a stagger low, but if he does something like this for long range, like let's say you block the snake edge or something, you can actually rely on crouch canceling 4-3-4. When you familiarize yourself with this, or even this, I'm not good at that though, you get good damage and then the range doesn't matter. But even his delayed hop kick has shitty range. Like delayed hop kicks I think have always shitty range, but this one has super shitty range. So familiarize yourself with those three punishers and their range, and at what time you have to use what. There are certain things that you just have to accept. For instance, Feng Wei cannot punish this. He just simply can't if it's not at the wall. It doesn't matter what you do, he doesn't have the range for it. Which is very sad. I mean, down 4-4, I thought this was to fix this, but it actually isn't. It actually isn't. Maybe sidestep. Well, let me just check if sidestep 2 will hit. I don't think so, but oh, barely, man, barely. So unless I'm overlooking a punish, then it's not that. He just cannot punish those. The second thing is the situation on -1 to 0. Why is that? Because his main mid tools will leave you at -1 or 0. Very close to the situation for leave. Which, when he gets his down for 1 blocked, he's -1, I think. And if he gets his down 3 blocked, he's actually also he's actually also -3. So, because you have your back 1, getting a down for 1 blocked is not a big of a deal. Having I think this is actually the last down for 1, which is 0, and you have very, very good jab strings, in my opinion. And one of the best counter hit tools in the game at 10 frames. So you have to kind of know when to use back 1 to keep your opponent respecting you up to -3 to -4. Because then is the time where he can safely down for 1 and he will beat you ducking, he will beat you like doing a single backdash, because you're actually at range 0 here at both. There is no pushback involved, so you're like in his face. Which is problematic because this has no tracking. So you have to kind of work with back 4, back 1 in like together, and his down for 1. This is a triangle that you really have to focus on, because both situations, getting a back 1 blocked is shitty. Even if he doesn't punish it, you cannot move afterwards, and getting a back 4 blocked is shitty. Those are two options where you, in a situation afterwards where your turn is completely over, you cannot step, you cannot backdash, you have to hold. It's like Marduk. If he blocks one of those options, you have to stand there and guess. And for a poke heavy character, that's not ideal. And that's why, even though he has one of the best pokes, if you're aiming for damage and you guess wrong, your turn is over and you need to defend afterwards. You kind of try to like implement offense with his lows, but since it mostly revolves around this slow, it's very risky. The third thing that I think you have to familiarize yourself with is counter hit timing. Feng has a lot of relatively safe counter hit tools that are not as rewarding or as some other characters. You're not a Leroy or something, but if you can get good counter hit reads on down back 3 or down 2 or back 1 or quarter circle forward 1, you're gonna score a lot of damage. Forward 4, which is not really a counter hit tool up close, but even if down forward 1 on counter hit, you have to be aware of the situation, because for me sometimes if you jab afterwards, you actually wasted plus 30 seconds because he's gonna block it. So in this situation you could actually force a sidestep mix-up if you're dashing forward, like if you do it like this. But you have to be aware of the counter hit. So sometimes I just mash and I score a counter hit like this and I waste my plus frames because I already did jabs afterwards. So you have to really learn that he's not Steve. He doesn't only rely on counter hit, but his counter tools are rather good, but don't have the biggest damage. Like you don't see a lot of counter hit launches from Feng Wei. You're more likely gonna see a free shoulder, which is sad because a counter hit launch there would not give him as much damage more, but would give him a wall situation where Feng really shines. And losing that, or just simply not having that, really limits his comeback options, which is kind of sad, but it's okay, it's okay. The third one, or the fourth one better, is how to space his lows. So, let me tell you something. If you're here and you think, yeah, it's the time to do quarter circle forward 1, it's so telegraphed. If your opponent doesn't block, if you do a slow move from here, he sucks. Because the only mix-up, the true mix-up you have is this one, which is minus 14. So, please, I know spacing with the lows for Feng Wei is especially important, because you can actually from this distance make us down 2, for instance, minus 11, if you do it right. It is around 2.7, 2.65. It is difficult like this. Then it's actually minus 11. So characters like Dragunov, if they do a 1-3 afterwards, you're gonna block it and they're minus 15. And the same goes for down back 3. You can actually, if you space it correctly at 2.7, it's gonna be minus 14 like this. But that is hard to do against an opponent that is moving. So you mostly have to accept. You either do this to not get launched, use this against characters like Eddie, Kazuya, even Paul, because his 13 frame punish really hurts. You're at minus 1 afterwards, which is kind of annoying, but you're not in crouch if, you're in crouch, which means if they jab and you do this, you can counter at them, and you can access his full crouch game, which isn't super dangerous, but it's also a counter at knockdown for a free stomp. And this as well gives a free stomp on counter hit. So the options are relatively safe, but still good. But if you face a character which only has a 13 frame launcher, this move of course is more viable. And if you do it at max range, it's even +5, so which is very, very good. But all these lows also have in common that you have to really think how to use them. If you, for instance, always space them perfectly, the opponent will start to block low if you're at this kind of range, because they know, okay, he's trying to set up his low to make it a little bit safer. So sometimes you have to go for this at range 0 and for this at range 0, which is risky and not ideal, but yeah, it's just necessary. And the last point is you have to really work on your timing for low parries, in my opinion, and on your throw breaks. This character is very evasive. And he tricks you into believing that you don't need a proper defense because he can evade so much shit, even though his evasion is mostly always risky, with the exception of back camper stuff. But his low crushes actually suck. His hop kick has shitty range. His up for 3 is hella slow, even though it's safe. And that's about it. And since he has a roll dash, low parrying is actually more dangerous because you're kind of stuck in this situation. There is a version how you can fuzzy low parry from down to down forward without doing it, but that takes some practice. So, even though you have a strong counter game and people don't tend to press low buttons, if they have a quick low that high crushes like Dragunov, expect them to abuse it. Because even though his wild standing punishment is better now, because this is 13 frames, so the matchup against Dragunov isn't as shitty as it used to be, it's +1 on hit. So after this, you're free to step, you're free to do whatever you want. So it's not the ideal situation. Wild standing 4 is +7, which is good, but it leaves you at a distance where you, even if you're +7, a lot of your key poking tools will just whiff. So you have to dash up. What I like to do, for instance, is quarter circle forward 1 +2, but even this can be stepped even though you're +7 because the range is too, like, it pushes them too far away. So your wild standing punishment, even though it got buffed, is still not good. So you have to know that people will abuse laws against you. And because if you're the toxic Feng who always comes in with this, expect them to fucking abuse laws, and your hop kick sucks. So you need to know your punishment. You need to know when you can step certain lows from certain characters, so you need matchup knowledge. You need the ability to crouch cancel shoulder a low that your hop kick won't reach, which makes a lot of matchups even more difficult, because if they can do a -15 low that you can simply not launch, and the punish for it is very difficult, expect them to abuse it. So you're kind of forced to use this hop kick, but it's shitty. So learn to backdash and then back tempo. What I like to do is 2 backdashes into back campo if I want to evade certain lows. And you have to familiarize yourself with this. Because all this means that a lot of lows are very, very annoying for Feng to deal with. Because for other characters, they're like, some characters get a launch at -14, but what you get is +1. And that's just not good. And because a lot of toxic Feng players abuse fucking down back 3, expect you to get hit by a lot of lows. And things like this, when you hit your wild standing 4, it's not a good situation. So before I ramble on more, these are the 5 things that you should focus on. Some of them are obvious, but really I cannot stress enough, you have to know the spacing of shoulders. That's all. I'm done with this video. Goodbye.